this one's the bitch to get off. Because I got dust filters underneath here. Well, one of them. On one side. And I'm always worried about bending it. These are just intakes. That's blank for now. Until I get another hard drive cage, I'll just leave it blank. These are intakes also. Actually, this is actually a 360 radiator, a 30mm radiator inside this radiator bracket. I used to have it just a radiator in push mode, which would be the fans in here, and then the radiator inside the case. But the radiator has some paint chipped off of it, so I just put the rad inside this radiator bracket, and then put the fans inside the case. That way you don't have to see the radiator paint chips. And here's the other side. And put this back on. It's easier to put back on than it is to take off. And I got rid of all that foam around the cables in here. Now I actually have cables. If you can see, the radiator is actually, well, you're not going to be able to see it, but the radiator is inside this flex bay radiator mount. It's designed to put the fans in there, but you have plenty of room to fit a 30mm radiator inside there. It just goes straight through the floor. It's padded on the bottom to kind of help with the noise. Yeah, I still have a little bit of work left to do on this foam. Yeah. These are the new Koolance QD-C3 quick disconnects. And I have one down here, and that's an in that's going into the GPU loop parallel, then into the CPU, and then back out to the top with another quick disconnect. And this allows me to disconnect the motherboard from the whole loop, and then take the motherboard out if I need to add something to it, or if something goes wrong, I can repair it without having to drain everything out. This cable here, let's see if I can get it in the camera, it's just a temperature probe. It goes up to the top radiator, which is just tells like the water temperature after the water's gone through both GPUs, CPU, and then halfway through this top radiator up here, which I'll show you now. Take my antenna off the top here. Alright. And that's the temperature probe right there. And this radiator's in push. The fans are inside the case. Oh, that was a lot easier to get on. Is that a bug? Get off there. And this down here I showed at the beginning of the video is just the exhaust of one side. The back of the case, there's two 140mm fans. They are dust filtered. The filter is on the inside of the case, so I like the way it looks this way. You just have to make sure not to get any cables near the fans. But those are intakes, and then each side of the case exhausts. Paint finish on these Caselabs cases is just amazing. I mean, it's just like I'm not gonna say I've been rough with it, but I've definitely had situations where I could have scratched the paint, and it just does not scratch. I mean, you'd have to really dig deep to scratch this stuff, this paint. But I'm going to show the other side of the case, since most people are like, where are the cables? I've done my best. I probably could have done a little bit better, but it doesn't look that bad. Let me zoom out here. Just 1 second. There we go. I'm not finished with the floor on this side. I'm probably gonna put the replacement panels in there with either a fill port. I actually bought fill ports, but I'm not using them yet. I'll have the fill ports installed and just have that tube just like run into a fill port, and then I'll just connect two fittings. That way you don't see straight through. But each radiator is an RX360 in pull, and then two fans back there, so you can see this. I basically just bought some screen material, like outdoor screen material from Walmart. It was like, I can't remember what it was. I think it was like $6.94 for like 30 feet, or I can't remember the exact amount of feet, but it was really cheap. You'd be surprised how much stuff you can buy at Walmart that you could use for your computer. Like all this air filter I bought at Walmart, which is basically just air filters for air conditioners, but I just used it for my radiators, and those are at 96 cents each for, it's like 2.5 feet, or 2 feet by 2 feet, I think, by 1.5 feet, and it's 5mm stick, like a 1/4 inch stick. And this is my new power supply. My HX1000 is being RMA'd. This is my new one. I'm just going to sell the RMA when I get it back, but this is a Seasonic 1250. It's got a hybrid or manual mode. Let's see if I can focus here. There it goes. I guess hybrid, it dictates how much juice is being pulled through the power supply, and it dictates how fast the fan runs. Or you can just run it, I guess, normal mode, which is just full speed, or I don't know. That's my guess. And I've got, let's see, 2 of these hard drives in here, which are 1 terabyte Hitachis, and then I have a 3 terabyte on the far end, and then or actually there's a 2 terabyte on the far end, so that's 4 terabytes there. Yeah, so 2 1s and 1 2. And then I have a 128 gig Plex Store SSD, and then a 3 terabyte Seagate, so a little over 7 terabytes total. I have 2 other 500 gigs that I was going to throw in here in a RAID 0 just for another terabyte, but it would just add more cables, and I really don't need that much hard drive space at all. Let me zoom out here a little bit. But yeah, this is the top radiator. It comes out of the CPU and GPU loop, or part of the loop, into this radiator, and then it goes down through the floor into one of the RX360s, and then into the second RX360, and then into the Koolance reservoir. It actually took me a while to figure out how I wanted to do this loop, just because the case is so big that you don't realize once you get it that it's kind of an adventure just putting your loop together, because you want to make it look nice, and yet you want it to be, well, in my case, I want it to be easy to be taken apart. It was like really time consuming putting this together. I probably built this loop 3 ways before I finally finalized on this way. Okay, there it is. The audio on this recording is going to be pretty low audio because my microphone on my camera is not the greatest. I've had people complain, why is your audio so low? Well, it's because my camera sucks. That's why. The video quality is not the greatest either. It's mostly because the lighting in my room is really bad. Somebody asked me how I have white on the back plates, but it's just I took some glossy printer paper and I used packaging tape, and I basically just taped it underneath the back plate. And fortunately, it is glossy and it has like a coating on the paper, because these EK compression fittings, yeah, it seems like I have really bad luck with compression fittings. The tubing does not, the barb on the compression fitting doesn't hold the tubing very well, and you can have the collar completely screwed into the compression or into the barb, and these tubes, you could basically just pull them right off the barb, even though they're completely, you know, the compression collar is completely screwed on. So anyway, there was the tube, after the water had heated up, the tubing started to get soft and some of the coolant leaked out, and it leaked onto the back plate, and because I didn't use regular paper, the white coolant just kind of balled up and just sat there, and I was able to just dry it up, and it didn't soak through, so I was lucky there. So yeah, these aren't, I don't know, I'm using some cheap XSPC compression fittings on the other side, on the top radiator, and yeah, they're cheap, but they do the job, so I don't know. I had a leak on the other side too because of that same reason. The fluid just kind of came right out of the tubing, even though it was completely attached, and it is the right size tubing. It's 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch, and that's what the compression fittings are. So I don't know. But yeah, I have all the fans at 12 volts, and because I have this air filter material on here, it really dampens the sound. I mean, all these fans I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 11, 13, 16 fans in here, 18 fans, and it is not, I mean, you can hear the fans, but it's not loud at all. I have these Nokia Bluetooth headphones. They're actually really good. They actually have really good bass, comparable to some decent Sennheiser wired phones. Actually, the bass on them, and you can control the bass. But they're Bluetooth, or you can hook them up with a cable, an auxiliary cable. But I have noise cancellation on these also, active noise cancellation. I can enable it. I don't even turn the noise cancellation on because of my computer. It's not that loud. Normally I would just flip the noise cancellation onto ignore the noise, but this case pretty much dampens out all the noise. It's pretty sweet. The only downside of this Caselabs case is the price. Yeah, I bought it and I'm happy with it, but I still think that it was too much. It's just way too expensive, I think. People say, you know, you read all the time on forums that people who have these cases, they say, oh, once you see them, you know, you'll agree that they're worth the money. Yeah, they're built really nicely, but I have one and I still can't really I can't argue when someone says that's too much. I can't really argue with them about that. It is a lot of money to spend on a computer case. And I'm still trying to get rid of my Switch 810. I've modded and drilled the shit out of that case, and as it stands, I'm probably not going to be able to sell it for very much because of how much I've done to it. But anyway, oh yeah, and here's my new 27-inch Oria 1440p. And I was running 1920 by 1080 Dells, but I was like, well, you're going to have two 7970s in here. Running one 1080p screen is just stupid overkill. So I went and upgraded the monitor, and I sold the two. I actually had two 1080p's, but they weren't running in like Eyefinity or anything like that, or dual screen, so I sold them on Craigslist and just bought that one. So, but this video's going on 16 and a half minutes, so I'm going to end it here. So let me know what you guys think, just about anything in general. If you have any questions about the loop or the fittings or